Hello, this is Annie. I bet that when I said that I was going to renovate Veronaville that you didn't expect me to build a university straight off the bat. Neither did I, but here we are anyway. I guess my mind just works in mysterious ways because when I was sitting down just looking at the neighborhood from neighborhood view, this was where inspiration struck and well, I just have to run with it sometimes, just go where the inspiration leads me, and here we are. And I decided to plop down the university part pretty close to Capp Manor. There's this pretty square piece of land that's not really used for anything. And yeah, I decided to create a sort of campus area, or what to call it. At least this lot is going to be the university. And then I'm also going to be building a private school right next to it. And also, I haven't decided yet if I'm gonna go with apartments for university students or some kind of dorms. I've never tried to create dorms in like a base neighborhood before. So I'm not sure exactly how it works, but I'm assuming it's going to work the same, just that there's not going to be any dormies for my Sims, and I think that's fine. I think that's actually more realistic in a small neighborhood like this. So that might actually might be what I try to go with, and then let's see how it works, more or less. I can always change it out for an apartment lot if it's not working as a dormitory. But this house was going to be like the full campus, and I'm going to make this into a playable business also for some sort of headmaster. But the main reason why I wanted to push this forward so quickly was actually that I've been trying to figure out what to do with the different families, and mainly with the pre-made Sims. And after having renovated both the Capp Manor and the Monty Ranch, my mind has started to stray to two of the children there because their stories have not really been unfolding according to the same sort of family-based plotline that many of the others have. And those two are Bianca, Monty, and Kent, Capp. Both of them are knowledge Sims. Both of them are not really, maybe Kent is sort of the black sheep of the family, but Bianca has turned out to be apparently the eldest daughter who has not married. She's in the family bin and she's single. And she's also like, I was talking about this when I built the Monty Ranch, but if the Monty clan had also been following a matrilineal inheritance scheme, then Bianca would have been the heiress. And similarly, if the Capp family would have followed a patriarchal lineage, then Kent would have been the heir. So both of them are sort of the discarded heirs, or what one could call them. So they have that in common, and also they are part of these rivaling families. They're not supposed to be friendly with each other, but they are. And that's interesting to me. Like, I wanted to figure out a way for the two of them to actually have been able to naturally meet and befriend one another. And my mind started to go to, well, maybe they're colleagues. Maybe that's what happened. And for both of them, it would make sense to have something, working with something that is following with their knowledge aspirations. At least I think Bianca's aspiration is knowledge. Maybe I'm misremembering that, but at least that's the way I view her, and probably the way I'm going to be playing her. It would be so embarrassing if she's actually family, but I think that she's knowledge. Anyway, so my mind has sort of gone to, well, maybe they would be working in science. But after having played with Strange Town so much and, also having the science facility and the goth labs, in Pleasantview, I just didn't feel like making yet another science career here. And also it sort of made more sense for me to add in a university campus building that also could include research of some kind. So my thoughts here is that they went to college and they never really wanted to leave. So they picked up research and they've started to teach in connection to that. So, well, I'm going to have this as an active career, and neither Bianca or Kent are going to be the principals. But I'm going to have some other family, own this lot and be the principal or headmaster, I guess, for this university lot. And then I can summon both of Kent and Bianca in to work as, well, professors, more or less. And then that will also allow me to have an active campus for my university students, somewhere for them to go to actually study, which will be nice. And that's sort of my thought process for why I wanted to set this up. So my plans for Bianca is that, well, I have half a mind of making her the drama teacher, maybe. Or maybe something more in connection to like law or something. And then Kent, I have thoughts of maybe making him a science professor or something. Starting out, both of them are, I think, both just starting out their adult lives. For Bianca, it really doesn't make any sense because I'm going to follow along with what I've been able to read from, I think, mainly Patricio's memories of what child was born in what order. And I'm going to make her the eldest child, so I'm going to age her quite significantly. I think she's going to be about middle age. I think I can probably keep Antonio about the same age as he is already. I'm just going to take a pause to explain what's going on the screen. So I've made these dormers on the roof, and I've also lowered them with the constrained floor elevation sheet to make them 3/4, I mean, instead of a full-length wall. And right now it looks good because I sort of removed the wall, placed down the windows, and then hit undo, and that made the windows see-through. But the problem is that when I'm gonna go down a level and then up again, the same issue is going to appear with the wall cutting through the top part of the window. And that's actually something that I had forgotten that I had learned. But the only way that I've been able to figure out how to get rid of that issue is to place down Numenor's unleveled walls. That's a specific type of wall that you can install in your game as custom content, and I'd recommend installing it with the scriptorium if you want to add it into your game for easy installation. But the unleveled walls is going to make it so that the windows are still going to be see-through when you move up and down the different levels if you decide to do something similar to this. And around this part, I was fiddling around also with the windows and the sort of tower at the top of this building. And the issue with placing down windows here was that I realized that the way that I placed down the big roof piece, it was just showing roof through the windows, and I really disliked that. So that's why I decided to undo it, redo the roofing, and of course, now that I had placed down windows, I had to remove all of them again in order to get this to work because the roof just refused to move. And this was also when I changed out the wall pieces for the unleveled walls to also fix that issue in one fell swoop. So yeah, about Bianca then. So she's going to be quite significantly older than she is from the start, and Kent is still going to be the youngest child though, so I think that he's gonna be pretty close to the same age that he is from the start, maybe a little bit older. I think I'm gonna age all the Capp children a little bit because, I mean, mainly looking at Goneril, she is way too young to have such old children in my mind. I don't know if she would have been like 14 or something when she had Miranda otherwise. I don't really like that, so I'm going to change that. And that will also make more sense with Cordelia's age as well, I think. Since she's supposed to be the youngest sister, you know, and there's teenagers. I mean, Tybalt is so old for being a child of hers. So, yeah, I'm gonna do that. And yeah, but then Kent is gonna be younger than Cordelia because he's the youngest. So I think that what's happened with Bianca and Kent is that Kent has recently graduated, and he probably showed quite a lot of promise as a student. So it's possible that he was asked to, you know, be a prefect or something, do some kind of lecturing work or helping out with classes or something as a student. And then that was sort of his shoe-in into the university life as he started doing research after graduating. And I think that Bianca and he probably got to know one another back then. Possibly that they initially did not like one another. Maybe they were rivals at first. But I think that now that he's actually become a colleague, that he's proven himself, that Bianca is a little bit impressed by him, and they have probably grown closer, working this closely together. And this being like its own little universe within Veronaville, I think that a friendship between the families can grow. Since they're not really around everything else, they're sort of isolated from all of the family drama. And being so hyper-focused on their work and, you know, truths and facts, I think that that would have allowed them to actually grow quite close from this. And possibly that the headmaster has also tried to nourish their relationship, bridge the gap between them. So that's what I'm going to do with this. And while the building itself, I sort of mixed improvising a lot of it. But then I also drew some inspiration from pictures of old university buildings from Oxford. Because I wanted this to look sort of Ivy League. And I'm going for a kind of British style with this. So I wanted to draw some inspiration from that. So there's going to be some ivy here on the wall shortly as well. And yeah, I think that, you know, these kind of dormers and towers is something that's quite common in Oxford, and also this sort of courtyards and green lawns and garden areas. That's what I could see from the pictures anyway. Never been, but it would be awesome to visit there someday. And this window and door set here, the classic window here, La Fenêtre, is not something that I use a lot because the windows are really, really blue. And I tend to stray away from that, but a lot of the other windows that I had already used in this build also had that blue tint to the windows. So it actually worked quite well here. And I think that I actually sat and scrolled through my options for big windows here for quite a while, and nothing really looked right until I ended up with those windows. So I think it's probably the first time I used them, but they actually worked really, really well here, surprisingly enough. And yeah, at first I was not sure what to do with that part, but I felt like I wanted to have something that looked more like an orangery or something that has more glass windows. But yeah, I'm gonna use that for the cafeteria later. And it was pretty important to also frame this lot in with a lot of greenery, but it all had to look quite polished. So that's why these low trimmed hedges worked really, really well here. I tried not to overdo it, but I placed them all around the edge of the border of the house. And I thought that these hydrangea plants were going to work perfectly here. But for some reason, I just didn't feel like they suited this lot. So I tossed them again and went with more, I guess green plants, bushes and trees like this. For some reason, that just suited better. Not sure why. And then it looked quite empty here at the front of the build, so I decided to put in these high fences. They're not really fencing anything in, but they're creating a little bit more of a privacy, I think, somewhat. And of course, here we have the ivy that has to go on the build, and this makes all the difference, I feel like. And I also love the way that part of the ivy is covering the windows, because that way you're going to be able to see the ivy through the windows when you're inside, and I think that looks really cool, I think. And I also added it in here, more of in the shadowy areas, but I tried to not overdo it either, so it's just going to be in these two parts. And I think that for a build such as this, they're probably pretty conscious of preserving it if it's a bit old. So they're probably trimming down the ivy quite a bit to make sure it doesn't work its way into the stone walls and destroying the building, as ivy tends to do. And yeah, not even that sort of park area that I added in to the side there has anything special about it. It's really just two big trees and that's it. But I felt like that was the vibe that I needed to go for this lot. I don't really feel like there would be a garden here with flowers and such. It's just the big green lawns that students can sit down on and I guess have a picnic or something. So yeah, but this was the start of it all, and after this point I actually made it into the interior of the house, and this was actually the second day because I started out building this quite late in the evening, I think. It was actually 2 weeks ago or something like that, so but yeah. And then I picked this up the following day to furnish the interior. And this is going to be the main entrance, and I wanted the staircase to be pretty impressive looking. So I made it an open stairwell like this. It's not going to remain as open later on, but yeah, at least you're going to be able to see straight down from the balcony down to the front door. And this is gonna be sort of well, in my mind, as I was building this, I was thinking that this part is sort of the official entrance where you would have, when guests come to visit the campus, this is where they're gonna enter, and this is the first thing that they're gonna see, and anything that guests would want to see should be at the front of the build. So this is sort of the administrative area, and it's also where the cafeteria is gonna be, and some bathrooms and such, the principal's office and those kinds of things is in that area. And then this back part is gonna be sort of exclusively for students. So this is gonna be more like, well, it has a third technically entrance on the side here, and this is gonna be more of, well, I guess where the students enter when they are heading to class. So this is going to be the part with a big library and with the computer room and also with a lecture hall. And yeah, so that's sort of how I split this up into two different parts. And as for gameplay, I'm going to have to try some different things out, I think. But my idea for now is that I'm going to only be playing with this slot when I am playing with the principal, because then I can sort of make it into his or her active career, summon Kent and Bianca in, and possibly a third teacher as well, depending on how I do this. And then any university students that I have active in the neighborhood at the moment are also going to be summoned in for classes. And then when I play with the students, on the other hand, I'm probably not gonna send them here, I don't think. That's something that I've been sort of considering for my Pleasant View as well, actually, because over there I just have the library building for university students, and that's actually a lot that I have recently, well, I say recently, but I guess it was like a year ago now. But recently, back when I played last, I made the library into an owned business, and yeah, I just think that that probably runs a bit better, potentially. I do use the opportunity pack for hosting active lectures, and I've been having the most success with that on owned businesses. Of course, it's going to be an owned business whether I am going here just to visit or playing it as the owner, but I don't know. I think that's at least what I'm thinking at the moment, that I'm gonna do with this. So yeah, and that would also allow me more time, I guess, with the university students besides just doing studies, because similarly to how I run things in Pleasant View, I think that I'm gonna want to give them part-time jobs, or well, like jobs on the side of their studies, at least for some majors. I've been using the reasoning of like in order to work in some kind of career tracks, you need some practical experience before you're actually allowed to take up a job in that career, such as, for example, education, or medicine, or the full law enforcement career, those kinds of careers where you couldn't just start from nothing. And there's actually some career levels at the start of those careers that says, like straight out in the flavor text, that the sim is currently studying. Like, for example, the paramedic career, I think, and I think it might be the cadet career level for law enforcement, maybe. But yeah, so I think that I'm going to do that because it just makes so much sense. And that would also sort of allow the students to have a job once they graduate as well, not to have to go job hunting the first thing that they do. If they want to have such a career, that is. Not everyone is going to. I actually think that since this is Veronaville, I think that this campus is probably pretty heavily influenced by creativity, those kinds of careers, and it's possible that people are traveling here to study drama or similar topics, because I just feel like that makes sense for Veronaville, you know. Not sure how to work with that yet. But yeah, possibly I could also add in some kind of external university students having traveled here if I want to add in more sims. Or I could, of course, just generate some townies and age them down to young adults. That could also work. There's different ways of doing this, after all. That would also be nice, actually, especially at the start of this, because at the start, there's really just gonna be, well, let me think. There's not really gonna be any university students at first, except one that I'm actually going to create and add in. And that was actually because of a comment that I got on the renovation of the Monty ranch. That there's apparently this sim that you can find in the, well, if you look through the files in SimPE, I think, or maybe, yeah, it's been figured out somehow that there's this teenager that's supposed to be part of the Monty family, or well, that was part of it at some point. But that was removed for some reason. Unclear why, but she's shown as a blonde teenager in a picture that you can find, and she's talking to Olivia, and apparently her name is Viola Monty. So what I've been thinking is that I want to recreate her, and I'm probably gonna just extract Claudio and Olivia's appearances in SimPE and then just go into a shadow neighborhood and create a baby for them that looks like what Viola could look like, and then just create her here in Veronaville and just build family connections to the other Monty family members. But I'm going to make her into a young adult, and my plans right now is actually to move her in with Bianca. Because I just didn't really feel like there would be anywhere for her at the Monty Ranch. There's just not enough rooms, right now at least. And also I figured that probably back when Claudio and Olivia were still alive, they had another house that the children were living in with them. And, well, I guess the boys moved in with the grandparents, but since Viola was a bit older and since she was going to start studying here, she moved in with Bianca instead. Yeah, I think that's what I'm gonna go with. So at the start of this, I'm just gonna have one university student. But I do think that there are some teenagers who are pretty close to aging up at once. I'm thinking of Thibault and probably Miranda, maybe Mercutio, I think. And that's also, of course, going to be elevated because of my aging mods, because I have shortened the teenager lifespan down to, I think it's 6 or 7 days. I think it might be 7 days. So, yeah, I think that's going to work out. But there's still not a lot of Sims, and it would be nice to have someone else in here as well. So, yeah, I'm going to see what I can figure out for that. So yeah, as I've been rambling about my plans here, I have been furnishing bathrooms and also built a lecture hall, and this is where I'm gonna have the computer lab. And since I am using Merola's time control clock to slow down the time, I also have some pretty severe mods to slow down the rate at how fast they learn skills from reading books and so on. And something that those mods don't really affect is Monique's computer. So that's why I am normally using Monique's computer for my university students to have them study skills faster than any other sim age can do. Like, I restrict that only to my university sims, because I figure that as they are at university with all of these resources and lectures and professors and everything around them, and not to mention the time to focus only on their studies, it's going to be so much easier to actually learn the skills compared to when they are adults and so on. So yeah, that's why I am allowing my university students to study with Monique's computer, and then all my other Sims will have to do it the old-fashioned way. But for that reason, the computer lab is pretty important because, this is where I'm going to be sending my Sims to build up their skills, basically. And something that I have noticed with the opportunity pack, when you're using it in the normal neighborhood, is that I haven't been able to make it work so that university students get any class performance. I did read a little bit though on the different books that you can pick to place down for different topics, that some of them, well, I guess all of them, have specified that they provide grade levels for specific majors. That's not something that I've ever noticed when I have used them in university hoods, but that could potentially be the answer to why that you actually have to use the correct book for the correct major in order for them to get class performance. I guess, that would make sense, but I don't know actually if that is the way it works or not. Just reading the text, that's what it seems like. So I guess I'm gonna try that out and see if that makes any difference. Yeah, I don't know. Either way, the Sims are also quite successful with just studying from bookcases and having study groups. So I'm probably gonna utilize the library quite a bit for them as well, to just have them sit down there and to study. And of course, this is the principal's office, so I wanted to add in some trophies and stuff here for the principal to be proud about the school's different achievements. And of course, the principal's office had to be where the balcony is. It just made sense. What other room could have it, right? And then this pretty long and thin room I made into a meeting room, so that the different professors can have different meetings, talk about upcoming events, or have faculty meetings basically. And it's not really that interesting of a room. It doesn't have a lot in it. I added in quite a lot of bookcases actually in most of these rooms to sort of fill the rooms up more to make them less empty, because it can easily become pretty, looks pretty empty when there's not a lot going on with the colors on the walls and floors and so on either. Like almost everything here is just brown, and it does fit with the aesthetic, but it can become a little bit bland, I guess, without something interesting to catch your eye. So bookcases help a lot, and also curtains, of course, and of course, my beloved paintings. Anything that I can add in to add some more interest for the eye. And as you can see here, I am adding in 3 different offices for 3 different teachers. And that's why I mentioned that I might want to add in a 3rd teacher besides Bianca and Kent. But my ideas for now is that this office here that I'm working on right now is going to be Bianca's, maybe, if she is the drama teacher, or I guess art teacher, one should say. I'm going to have to see what I think when I start playing with her. It might be that I have to add in a separate art teacher, unless Bianca fits the spot. I don't think that Kent is right for it. He might surprise me though. I'm not going to say no before I've actually sat down to play with him, but yeah, I don't think so for now at least. And then the first room at the other end, like next to the headmaster's office, that's the office that I envisioned for Kent actually. I don't have it available right now, but I'm gonna want to add in a microscope. That's a custom content object that gives logic. So that he can sit down and it looks like he's researching something, I guess. So that's something that he's going to be able to do in his office. And then this third teacher's office, I basically just built into something that could be utilized for a law teacher or something like that. Yeah, a variety of different topics could fit there. And then I moved down to the downstairs here, and yeah, there's not really that many rooms left. I basically started this just going by what room do I know where it's going to be placed down from the start. So for the rooms that were obvious, that's sort of where I started, and then I built my way around the other rooms that were not quite as obvious from the start. So I had no idea that this was going to be an arts classroom, but that's what it turned out to be here at the end. And yeah, this also opens up for some active art classes. Actually, not only for university students, but I can really see this being somewhere that yeah, anyone in the neighborhood who's interested in art could come to take a class in the subject if they want. And yeah, I also think that that's quite fun, because having clubs like that for different sims in the hood can actually build some interesting relationships that were not quite as obvious from the start. And I really enjoy having these kinds of yeah, sort of integrated functions within the neighborhood to bring different sims together and build little friend groups. So I think that that would actually be quite fun to add in as well. But I also have to be sort of careful not to add on too much work for myself, because I don't want to make it so that sitting down to play this lot is going to be too overwhelming either. So pacing is always good as well. And this room I made into a sort of, I guess, a club room of some sort. Maybe there's like a billiards club or something. I guess it's a room for any sports clubs that is connected to the campus. I guess there should be like a soccer team or something like that for Veronaville, I guess. And then I'm moving on here to more of the student part of the campus. And this is actually where I also plopped down a while ago this conversion from The Sims 3. That's this table with different yeah, welcoming stuff for new students, like pamphlets and frisbees and stuff. So I thought that that would make sense in this area. And then, yeah, like I imagine that this is the entrance that the students mainly use when they come for their activities. And yet that they are just hanging out in this area, basically. And this is going to be the big library, just stuffed in a bunch of different bookshelves here. But there's also going to be some tables for the students to sit down. And as I mentioned, I'm mainly going to use this room for having study groups, because it's just going to take so long for the students to study from books compared to just using Monique's computer instead. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this works. I have, of course, had universities in the main neighborhood in the past. I've tried it out actually only in Pleasantview, now that I think about it. But the way that it works in Pleasantview is quite different from my plans here, because it's not really an active career with professors and such in Pleasantview. It's more of a library. One could say there's not really much else to it. And in Pleasantview, I've also utilized apartments for the students. But it's going to be interesting to see here how it actually works with dorms once I try it out, because it's possible that if I can get the dorms to work better than apartments for students, it might be preferable actually. And I might end up changing things up a little bit for Pleasant View, perhaps. Not sure about that. I am quite attached to the apartments that I've built for my students though, so we'll have to see. Maybe, I mean, there has been quite a baby boom. There are quite a lot of teenagers in Pleasant View at the moment. And yeah, so there's going to be quite a lot more students soon. So it might be a good opportunity now to try it out, and then if I like how it runs, to add it in now actually, before all of them start to move in. And I have to do a lot of work to move people around if I decide to change things out. Anyway, so the lot is almost completely furnished now, actually. There's not very much left here. Just adding in some finishing details. I decided to go with some soft lighting here, actually, similarly to how I've done it in the houses as well that I have furnished. And a lot of wall lights, actually. Not very many spotlights here, and I feel like spotlights maybe don't fit into Veronaville as much as it does in, for example, downtown, where it just fits like hand in a glove, you know. So I feel like I'm probably gonna go with a lot more, old looking light sources for Veronaville, that's to say. And of course, it wouldn't be a campus without bike racks. So that's what I put down here at the front of the building. But of course, there's also the parking lot for, I guess, the faculty members and visitors, and I guess students as well. There's going to be quite a few rich students here, of course. So maybe Thibault rolls up in his Ferrari when it's time for him to go to class, you know. But this is the campus building completely finished, and I'm actually really pleased with, you know, the silhouette of this. I think it really turned out nice, and I can also see it working quite well with a private school at the back of it, and then potentially dorms as well. It's going to be interesting to see how I can work with the different shapes to make them all fit together and look like one campus unit, or what I should say. So yeah, I'm excited to also start to try this out, see what I can do with it. And yeah, I was happy also to add in a little bit more of a different vibe here to Veronaville as well, because in between the sort of Tudor styles and the Spanish/Italian styles for the Monty side, it's nice to actually also add in this kind of old stone building that you would see perhaps in Oxford. So yeah, it adds a little bit more of a mix to the neighborhood, and I quite like that. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching the video, and yeah, I will talk to you next time. Take care. Bye.